Welcome back to Aliyah and Chill. I'm your host, and today we're talking about that moment when you decide to take the plunge and make the call. You know the one, your first call to the Jewish agency, where you're about to announce to a complete stranger that you want to uproot your entire life and move to a country where you can barely order falafel. Now, I'd been thinking about Aliyah for months. I'd watched every episode of Toda, I could hum Hatikva in the shower, and I'd even downloaded Duolingo Hebrew. Though let's be honest, I'd made it through exactly 3 lessons before giving up and convincing myself that Shalom was basically a complete sentence. So there I was, sitting in my apartment in Chicago, staring at the Jewish agency's number on my computer screen like it was the nuclear launch codes. I'd practiced this conversation in my head 17 times. I was ready. I was prepared. I was absolutely terrified. The phone rang once, twice. Then, "Shalom, Jewish Agency, how can I help you?" And that's when my brain completely short-circuited. "Shalom," I responded, way too enthusiastically, like I was auditioning for a Hebrew school play. "Shalom, Shalom." Silence. Then, "Yes, Shalom, how can I help you today?" This was it, my moment. Time to explain my deep spiritual connection to the Jewish homeland, my burning desire to contribute to Israeli society, I want to make Aliyah, Shalom. Why did I say Shalom again? I don't know. It just felt right, like punctuation, like I was speaking some kind of Shalom Morse code. The agent, let's call her Rachel, because of course her name was Rachel, was very patient. Too patient. The kind of patience you develop after dealing with American Jews who think they're being culturally authentic by saying Shalom after every sentence. "That's wonderful," she said in perfect English with just a hint of an Israeli accent. "Let me transfer you to our Aliyah counselor." "Toda raba," I exclaimed, proud of myself for remembering thank you in Hebrew. More silence. Then, "You're welcome. Please hold." While on hold, I started panicking. What if the counselor only spoke Hebrew? What if they tested my Jewish knowledge? What if they asked me to recite something and all I could remember was the Hebrew alphabet song from Sunday school? Click. "Shalom, this is David." "Shalom," I practically shouted. "Shalom, David, how are you? Shalom." I was like a malfunctioning Hebrew robot. Shalom this, shalom that. If shalom was a currency, I was Jeff Bezos. David, bless his soul, started explaining the Aliyah process in his perfectly reasonable English. Requirements, timelines, documentation. And me? I'm responding to everything with either shalom, ken, yes, or toda raba. You'll need to provide birth certificates. Ken, Shalom, and proof of Jewish heritage. Toda raba, zrenia, Shalom. Do you have any questions about the timeline? Shalom, Ken, Toda raba. I sounded like I was playing Hebrew Mad Libs. Finally, David gently asked, "Do you speak any Hebrew?" And in that moment, I had to make a choice. I could continue my charade of Hebrew fluency, or I could admit the truth. "Well," I said, abandoning my Hebrew completely, "I know Shalom, Toda raba, Ken, Lo, and, bagel?" David started laughing, not at me, but with me. "Bagel isn't Hebrew," he said kindly. "But it sounds Jewish." "So does pastrami, but that's not Hebrew either." Turns out David was from Brooklyn. He'd made Aliyah 15 years ago with exactly the same Hebrew vocabulary as me, plus a few curse words he'd picked up from watching Israeli movies. "Listen," he said, "half the people who call here think they need to prove how Israeli they are on the first phone call. You don't need to impress anyone. We're here to help you figure out if Aliyah is right for you, not to judge your Hebrew pronunciation. So I can stop saying shalom after every sentence? Please do." It was getting a little intense. The rest of the conversation was actually amazing. David explained everything in clear English, answered all my questions, and even laughed when I asked if Netflix works in Israel. It does, in case you're wondering. By the end of the call, I felt informed, supported, and significantly less like a Hebrew-speaking imposter. David scheduled my follow-up appointment and gave me his direct number. "And don't worry about the Hebrew," he said. "You'll pick it up, or you'll join the thousands of English-speaking Israelis who order coffee by pointing at the menu." As I hung up, I realized that my first call to the Jewish agency taught me something important. Authenticity beats performance every time. They don't need you to be Israeli already. They need you to be honest about who you are and why you want to become Israeli. Plus, I learned that bagel is Yiddish, not Hebrew. Who knew? That's all for today's episode of Aliyah and Chill. Remember, the Jewish Agency has heard every possible version of nervous American Hebrew, so just be yourself. Even if yourself only knows 3 Hebrew words and one of them isn't actually Hebrew. And hey, if this story terrified you more than a Hamas rocket alert, maybe it's time to call Easy Aliyah's VIP concierge service. We speak fluent bureaucrat so you don't have to. Until next time, keep practicing your Hebrew, and remember, when in doubt, just say toda, raba.